Esta conferencia comenzará a grabarse.
And so, you are very welcome, Dana. Thank you for joining us today. Okay. As you are the head of unit of the advanced technology teams, as far as I know, and probably the best person possible to present us the 100 Intelligent Cities challenges. So the floor is yours, Dana.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Antonio. Thank you for this opportunity to present our initiative today. I'm not the head of unit. I'm the team leader for the advanced technologies in the unit of ULA, which is Advanced Technologies, Social Economy and Clusters. I will share with you a few experience we have with the dialogue with cities in the frame of the 100 Intelligent Cities Challenge. And this may interest, actually, it's a program that may interest a lot of your of the audience, of the participants right here. But most important is how to see the role of cities in building their local ecosystems together with clusters, together with social economy partners, in order to help their city respond efficiently to the COVID-19 crisis. Can I have the next slide, please?
For sure.
So it is in this spirit that a little bit of background. Why did we in DG Grow paid attention on cities? And of course, cities is where 72% of the European citizens live today. This is expected to go up to 84% by 2050. Cities are where most of the economic activity is happening. Over 80% of GDP is happening in cities. But also cities are responsible for about 70% of the global emissions, CO2 emissions. Cities are also the place where Europe is closer to the citizens. So it is the lower level where European policies are becoming true. It is estimated, according to our research, that about 50% of the reductions that are necessary for net zero emissions by 2050 can be achieved at cities level. So all these reasons make cities particularly important ecosystems, also for the European reality. And technologies can help in all those aspects. So advanced technologies, be it digital or physical technologies, can help cities. We have many cities that are front runners in this area, and we want to learn from each other. It is in this spirit, next slide please. It is in this spirit that we established the Intelligent Cities Challenge. This is an initiative that started in February. We want to help 100 European cities, mostly medium-sized cities, so not the usual capitals. We want to help them to leverage the possibilities of advanced technologies in order to help their city become greener, social, and more intelligent. So you see the three pillars, if you wish, of the action is the intelligent in the sense of using the cutting-edge technology. It is green, so we want to be in line with, of course, the European Green Deal, climate action. And the third pillar is social. Everything that we do, that cities do, should have people in their center. Actions like healthcare, reskilling of the workforce to fit the needs of the future, and of course, crisis management are at the center of this action. Now that we have the COVID-19 crisis hit in March, we refocused, actually, we had to do that, the objective of the Intelligent Cities Challenge to help cities practically do a new start after the COVID-19. Always respecting the three pillars of intelligent, social, and green, but of course, the whole discussion comes into how to help cities do an effective recovery and reimagine their future after the COVID-19. A little bit of history before we go to the methodology. We didn't start by scratch. We had a previous initiative that was called the Digital Cities Challenge in the last 2 years. and this initiative helped 41 European cities. If you can have the next slide, you can see already the cities that participated in the Digital Cities Challenge. So we had 41 cities, you can see them there. We reached out through these cities to an estimated of 1.5 million small and medium enterprises. And we helped for those 41 cities actually to use advanced digital technologies at that time to create better smart economic growth. So you can see that we open up our horizon and our scope now for the Intelligent Cities Challenge. A few things that was the focus or the lessons that we learned through the Digital Cities Challenge, and we plan to expand in the next phase, is the importance of open data and Internet of Things. So cities, even the smaller ones, get to realize how important the data they collect are, and they all want to do actions to open this data for the benefit of their citizens and of their businesses. The devil, however, is in the details, so not all of them can employ powerful big tech companies to do that. So in the Intelligent Cities Challenge, we will help them to open their urban data platforms, and this is also very relevant for the COVID-19 response. The next point is cities want to offer market opportunities or to open market opportunities for their small and medium enterprises. So many of them, they have employed smart solutions that has been developed by a small and medium player in their city, or by a cluster if they have a cluster organization in there, or by the local university. And they employ that, and they are very happy with these applications. So the idea came, why don't we create a marketplace among those cities to sort of publicize and be able to open market opportunities for those smaller players, not only the big tech players, but those smaller players that provide efficient solutions for cities. This is also something that we are going to take up in the Intelligent Cities Challenge. Upskilling the workforce is also something that cities are more and more concerned, as they see clearly that they cannot rely on national education and training systems alone to train their citizens, their workforce for the lifetime. So lifelong training in cooperation with vocational training institutes it was many of the initiatives that we have seen flourishing in cities that take up, analyze the skills needs, not only, of course, as business, as a local administration, but the skills need of the whole ecosystem of the city, of the industry, of academia, of small players, and they take measures to upskill the workforce with the skills that are needed. This is also very relevant for the COVID-19 crisis. And last but not least was that they want support for joint investments. So very often cities, especially the small to medium ones with which we are working, they don't know where to turn for financial support. The only thing most of them know is the regional funds. However, there are plenty of other opportunities, and we are offering advisory services to them to help them find the right financial tools to finance their investment plans. If I can have the next slide. Most probably, this is the methodology that we followed in the Digital Cities Challenge, but it will be the same that we will continue in the Intelligent Cities Challenge. So it is worth to stay a couple of minutes on this one. Practically, when we speak about cities, we do not mean the local administrations. We mean the city ecosystem. So what we are doing with this action is to help cities build innovative local ecosystems together with their industry, the clusters, the small and medium enterprises, the startup community, academia, training institutions, social partners, of course, social grassroots social initiatives, and so on. So this is not easy for some of the smaller cities. You have fragmented situations there. So one of the first actions of the cities that are participating is to help them. We are actually sending high-level experts, international experts, to each one of those cities to help them understand first of all their ecosystem, and then create joint meetings, co-working with the ecosystem. As the next step is to co-create with the ecosystem a joint vision. Where do I want my city to be in 10, 20 years from now? What is the city I dream about after the COVID crisis, which can offer also some opportunities? Then each one of the cities will create a vision and a roadmap that is shared actually by the whole ecosystem. And as a last step is that we help them through advisory services to start implementing getting access to finance from the right resources, and then start implementing the actions of the ecosystem. But most important, we help them to get the knowledge as an ecosystem and the dynamism and the resilience to continue by themselves. Can I have the next slide, please? And so this is pretty much the same approach that we follow in the Intelligent Cities Challenge. I believe I have covered this one. If I can have the next one. This is the objectives of the Intelligent Cities Challenge, but I mentioned that already. So here you have a little bit in a nutshell. It will be a 2.5 years program. Again, five phases. But I would like to mention that we will have 100 cities. And among those, we will have the core cities, so the cities that will be participating in the program that as I said, will be medium-sized city of medium technological maturity with a lot of will to advance in this area. And they will receive all the advisory services by our team of experts, but also we are recruiting a team of mentor cities. The mentor cities will be the ones that are already well advanced in the area of technological developments, that they have very nice story to share and to inspire the others, and they will play indeed the mentors and facilitators role by helping the other cities, by inspiring them, and also by sometimes joining forces with them for common investments. So we most probably have mentor cities already. We know that ESPO, together with the 6 cities around ESPO, they are participating as an ecosystem, as a mentor city. Barcelona as well, Nice, Côte d'Azur, another one, and we are in discussions with a lot of other cities as mentor cities. The deadline for the core cities to apply is the 29th of May. So very soon we will be closing this application. Now, the cities, if I can have the next slide, the cities that will be participating, we ask them to focus a little bit in which areas they want to advance. They see their cities to have a competitive advantage, let's say. We offer a big range of 14 priorities, and we group these priorities into 5 thematic categories, from green economy to smart mobility to e-government services, but of course, economic growth and reskilling and health and safety. There are several subcategories. And the idea here is to try to have each one of the cities focused to 2 or 3 of these priorities, and then work with other cities with similar priorities in thematic groups in order to be able to make some visible progress. Now, if I can have the next slide, please. As I said, while waiting for cities to apply for the process, and we expect most of the digital cities challenge of the previous phase to continue, and most of them have confirmed already to continue the next phase. We are also organizing with some actions to already start a discussion and help cities to have a good response to COVID-19. What these actions include, we do have a series of webinars, not so often like you with every morning meetings, but we have targeted webinars with cities on the COVID response. We had 2 so far, one fighting coronavirus at the city level on 3rd of April, with examples from cities like Espoo and Nice. We had one on building cities' resilience and mobilizing the local ecosystems on the 15th of April, with examples from Barcelona and Amsterdam at that time, very nice examples. And we have one tomorrow on post-pandemic recovery plans, with the examples of Milan and Singapore. Those are cities that have already prepared recovery plans, especially Singapore went back from lockdown to normal situation and then retracted back to lockdown. So we have a lot to learn from them. And then, as we are having discussions with cities and their ecosystems on what they need. On the top of the webinars, we have established a portal with good cities practices, mainly focusing around technologies on what cities can be doing, and also a set of useful links on what is the European Commission response, but also other cities' responses and other organizations like the Committee of Regions, for example, or Eurocities responses to help cities. So they are more links related to city ecosystems. Now, what we have learned, and that's my last slide, the next slide, please. And those are the needs that we see, we have listened to cities to expressing. So cities are very much aware and they are preoccupied with how to deal with what is for them a triple crisis, a health crisis, but also a social and economic crisis. Many of them, we have heard that a lot in the webinars, they see the crisis as a deep opportunity to reimagine what the post-COVID city will be. So we have heard cities speaking about we need to reflect our relation with people, our relations with businesses, we need to become greener, and so on and so forth. So this is something that preoccupies the cities as they are preparing now their local recovery plans, of course, in the frame of the national and of the European recovery plans. Now, a lot of importance, a lot of highlight is on the city and community resilience. So we are going to reimagine the future. Let's build it in a more resilient way and avoid the situation that we had now with the corona crisis. Cities are speaking about bringing together the makers community that's coming from Barcelona, for example, Fab Labs, volunteers, social initiatives together in a way, however, that is coordinated, that is not only organic, in a way that the offer goes to where the needs are. So many cities, we had a very good example from Amsterdam, for example, developed their own portals just in order to coordinate the demand, the makers, the hospital needs for the time being, but also people needs, families needs, etc., in a coordinated ways. Cities are speaking a lot about green deals, green recovery, that's something that's coming very often, and the circular economy. Other things that we have listened, it's worthwhile to share with you, is the rebuilding local manufacturing. So cities put in question all this dependence on global supply chains. I know this is a discussion that you have your group very intensively, but also cities, they are thinking about how to put in, to valorize local producers, even for food, the rural areas around them. For example, Milan has a very good plan that they will present also tomorrow on how to valorize the local food producers and not depend anymore on global supplies. But this goes to other suppliers, not only food, but other manufacturing activities. And then, of course, the use of technologies is very much in the middle of this as an enabler and facilitator. So technologies as enabler for resilience. For example, some cities like Helsinki and Espoo, they are using already the digital twins of their cities to simulate, to model how supply chains will work, how the city will become green. but also other technologies. For example, NIS is preoccupied with contact tracing apps and how applications and how they will use that at the local environment. The use of drone to inform people about wearing masks, for example, but also to a certain extent avoid, of course, become a surveillance mechanism to spy on people. Blockchain technologies can offer many possibilities as well. So technologies are in the middle of these discussions, and we bring some technology presentations in our webinars. With this, I took too much of your time. Thank you very much. And I would be, very happy to respond to any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dana. No, your timing is perfect, and the presentation is very, very interesting, at least for me. I have tons of questions, but I prefer to let the attendants comment and ask. So the floor is now for everyone. Maximum 3 minutes of speak, please. Questions, suggestions about needs, solutions?
Hello, everybody. My name is Nuno. I want just to share my experience on smart cities. I was the coordinator on United Nations of the research on smart cities. And from my experience, the most important is the human capital. And to have sure that people have the capacity and the competencies to implement the smart cities initiative. I was in India working with the 100 smart cities plan that they have, Singapore, in 5 continents. And what I saw and what I experiencing is that if the people don't have the capacity and the competencies to implement the smart cities initiatives, they will fail.
Thank you. The human capital, the talent.
Yeah.
You're totally right. Comments, Dana?
Yes, I confirm that this was very much not only in Indian cities, but in many of the intelligent cities challenge, many cities are speaking about not smart cities, but smart citizens. So indeed, they insist a lot that if the citizens are not smart enough to imagine the future and to have the skills to do this transition, nothing can happen only by the wish of a local mayor, for example. So I confirm this is true, but also this has to do with a lot of the reskilling efforts. So we have seen cities, Nice is a very nice example, but also other cities like Pori, for example, that developed their own initiatives. They said it is, for example, they said it is too late that kids go out 18 years old from schools and then they go to university and they have no digital skills at all. At the same time that we are speaking about technologies and how technology can help. So they have organized together with local clusters, like local entrepreneurs as well, sessions that would target the school kids, the high school kids, the kids of 15, 16 years old, even younger sometimes, to teach them some of the digital skills, at least to inform them what AI, artificial intelligence is, what robots is, what this can do to your city. And this was all done on the cities initiative. So on the local organization, together, of course, with training institutions, with clusters, with SMEs. This was not done by the national education systems. So this is to say, and we will have a pillar, as you have seen, on upskilling workforce to exchange experiences between cities. This is to say that a lot can be done at local level on the top of what is offered by the national education systems. And all I can say is we have very good examples of cities that are working on that. I can only support your comment.
Yes, it's true, but you know, we need to contextualize the smart city solutions, and one size doesn't fit all, and all situations are different. I know that the World Bank asked the United Nations to do a training course for smart cities, and I think it's the first step to have sure that the initiatives are successful. Is giving training courses from policy sides to more technical sides, and this is a way to make sure that they will be well succeeded.
Thank you, Nuno. More questions or more comments? Daniel, I am sure that you have something to say.
Surely. Hello, everyone. Hello, Dana. Thank you for your presentation. I'm Daniel from the Smart City Cluster in Spain. We group the entire industry of the smart cities, and we also have universities and science and technology parks. We work with many different cities all around the country. We've been up for 7 years now, and we have seen the transition from the pretty much nothing in the smart cities world to the present situation where the message is starting to come through to many cities, not only the world leaders and the big ones, but now we have a lot of medium-sized cities that are starting to implement solutions. Yesterday, we signed an MOU with a city of 23,000. So that means that everybody now is on board. I wanted to ask you, because this call is started or opened in February. Really, none of us had in mind what we have right now. Most of the presentation has been focused on how smart cities can solve the actual situation or can help support the cities and the people in the current situation. And I'd like to know how you're going to make it work, because the call is probably written with rules, with general rules, considering the initial objectives, and probably COVID wasn't one of them. How are you going to go about considering this so that the pivoting of the objectives is actually feasible? And also I have a little comment that is many of the cities are starting now to implement quick solutions on mobility. We are seeing this all around in Spain. Many of the lanes are being transformed into 30 kilometers per hour only, or bike lanes, or quick quick solutions to make the streets only pedestrian only roads, and trying to get back space from the cars. These are, of course, solutions that the cities already had in mind. Nobody can come this quickly with plans, especially in a moment where all hands need to be working on helping the population, right? So I would like to ask, how are you going to manage to include this in the call, and how to make these solutions be workable?
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. This is a very good question, and I believe we were lucky actually in the open call, because the project started in February, which means that we are working with a consortium, set of contractors that have the overall oversight of the program, and we are currently recruiting the cities. So we have indeed an open expression of interest on our side for cities who are interested to join. This deadline will be by the 29th of May. The initial objectives, as I mentioned before, were the three pillars of bringing together the intelligence, so the capacity of technologies, the green, in line with the European Green Deal, and the social, so the people first, as we discussed. Now, what COVID-19 situation will do, to my mind, and as we discussed internally as well, will only accelerate the things. I mean, and in sometimes it may even, how to say, indeed, speed up processes like the ones that you mentioned that were in the mind of the cities, but because the disruption would be too big to do in one go, they wouldn't dare to do that. However, the COVID now put everything, it's like a tabula rasa, put everything on the baseline, so cities are freer to implement very good initiatives, to my mind, that now that they start by scratch, it's even easier for them to do. So the pillars will always remain the three ones. Thank you, Antonio, for bringing the intelligent, social, green. And the COVID actually may be, and we hope that this will be an accelerator to do the things quicker and in the right direction. And indeed, we are seeing examples like the ones that you mentioned. We are seeing examples in Milan, for example, also took the opportunity to completely create 25 kilometers, I believe, of pedestrian roads in the center of the city. Athens, I know, is doing the same, and many Spanish cities. Another angle that we will see very much of importance for cities is the renewable energy mix. So many cities are based on very old fossil fuel infrastructure, and because it would be too disruptive for them to start by scratch, they were hesitating. But now, with the push, with the new budget that we hope, and it is agreed, will be given on the Green Deal, they have a fresh opportunity to do a fresh start with a lot of renewables in their energy mix that they wouldn't dare to do before. A lot of retrofitting on public buildings will be happening, for example. A lot of green in public spaces, in urban spaces, are in the plans of cities. So honestly, from what we see now, the disruption is huge. The social and the economic impact is huge. Cities understand that because they are the closer with the citizens, they discuss that every day. So I don't want to only present it in a rose, in a pink picture, because the disruption is very important. It presents some opportunities, however, to do a quick new start. It also presents an opportunity, and we know a lot of cities are thinking about that, to to create a new social contract with their people. So they are rethinking on the responsibilities of the city, of the public sector, of a shared responsibility actually between public authorities, small and medium enterprises, intermediaries, universities. And we have heard reflections from them speaking about rethinking the social contract that they will have with the people. So this is, for the time being, indeed an opportunity to bring into the surface, but also implement much quicker ideas that they were there, but they were in limbo because it would take years for them to implement. The same goes for the digital transition. I mean, you are seeing that yourself. We are having this webinar, you have it every day, purely on digital means. The possibility was there before, but nobody was using that. We prefer to travel and go here and there, etc. And now the digital transition that has happened in 1 month, in 2 months practically, was not happening in 5 years before, you see. So this accelerated a lot the situation. And I personally really hope this will be also a catalyzer for the green dimension, for the renewable energy dimension, for the social dimension as well.
Thank you. More questions?
Yes, Antonio, can I make a small question to Dana? Dana, I was responsible for 10 years here in Portugal for the digital and intelligent cities. We have, for instance, Aveiro, that is from Vasco Legato, is here. That was a very successful case. One of the problems for the success of these programs is the question of the governance and the cooperation. Because if you don't have a very strong cooperation between the municipality, the companies, and the universities, and there is not a very strong governance, it's difficult to have success on this kind of projects. What do you think about that from your experience?
I'm not sure if you mean the governance at city level or the governance between cities. Can you clarify that?
Both at the city level and between the network.
Right. Indeed, this is a challenge. So in theory, it works perfectly. We're speaking about ecosystems that are working in a homogeneous way for the city good. In practice, it was, as you mentioned, much more difficult to bring the ecosystem. Each one has its own work, let's say, and it was not easy exercise to do. However, we insisted a lot on this one because we have seen that this was the #1 success factor in cities that did well. Cities like Barcelona, cities like Nice, for example, even smaller cities like Lund and Łódź from Poland, they very clearly said that this is not a top-down exercise, that this is not enough if a mayor, even as inspiring as he may be, can say, I want my city to be intelligent, and this becomes reality. Because if the companies do not follow, if clusters organizations do not follow, if there is not this mix, nothing will happen. So indeed, difficult, but we insisted a lot on that. For example, we had teams that were working on one-to-one basis with each one of the participating cities. So the teams that would go there would only go if there was a preparation already, and there would be a meeting with cities representatives, with clusters representatives, with business, with chamber of commerce, with academia. So at least a minimum of requirements were there, that there was an effort to create this ecosystem. Also in the application process, so now that we have the open call for application, this is one of the key requirements for the cities. We ask cities, it is not enough that the local authority says that I want to become an intelligent city. We ask them to prove and to provide letters of intent, not only from the mayors and the political authorities, but of course of local universities, of the business communities, of the whole ecosystem representatives, that they are interested together to make their city one of the intelligent cities group. I know this does not respond entirely to your questions, but I just want to confirm that it is easier said than done, and that this takes a lot of will by the city, a lot of internal. It's not only when the consultants go there and work with the city to create a strategy, but this has to continue, of course, and has to continue after the program. Now, I believe that the COVID-19 also demonstrates how cities with strong ecosystems are more resilient as well in terms of a crisis situation, be it the COVID crisis or a natural disaster, you name it, because many players can act in an independent but coordinated way. So all I have to say is that for us, this is very important that cities work as an ecosystem. We know that it is not easy, but it's something that we try to inspire and push people in this direction, mainly by bringing the good examples by the mentor cities. Practically all mentor cities have very successful ecosystems in place.
Thank you very much. More questions or comments or solutions? Remember that during our sessions, we are looking also for new solutions, innovative solutions.
Yeah.
That would be really important. For example, I am very surprised because we are speaking a lot. I was also speaking a lot during the past year about the need for skills on the cities and to engage. But I have found that during this crisis, there has been a very strong movements in at least in a lot of countries of the so-called makers. And they are very strong in terms of capacities, skills, and they were there, and they have been here in Spain. They have been critical for the first steps on the crisis. So my impression now is that there are some skills there that perhaps what we need to do is engage them. to give them some kind of mission, space, empowerment. I don't know, but for sure we need to increase the skills in the city, but perhaps we need also to provide opportunities for those that have the skills and are there, or the goals of the, I don't know.
I can only speak about examples that popped up in the discussion. Indeed, the makers community and engaging the makers community and giving them a much more important role is at the center of the examples that were mentioned to us by Barcelona. So if in the report of the second webinar, there is a lot about what and much more described in detail what Barcelona is doing, but practically from what I remember was that there were a lot of initiatives out there from makers, from local fab labs, etc. And the city of Barcelona, actually it was under the Commissioner for Digital Transformation of Barcelona, he tried to indeed give them space. So he created a portal, he tried to indeed, they are not only registering what the makers can do, but they are also registering the challenges of the city. So there is a portal in Barcelona where the different actors, not from the city, they are putting together the challenges. It can become from a hospital or from schools or from social groups. And then the makers are trying to provide solutions to these challenges that are being mentioned there. So it's a challenge-oriented approach, which is not bad. We have seen that also at European level a lot with hackathons, for example, that are addressing common European challenges, be it from cities. Here we're speaking about cities, but also it can be at the European level. So indeed, there is an opportunity there to bring these people together. What I can say is that there is, I'm also surprised myself that there is a lot of awareness and also a lot of will, new will for cities to act in a more dynamic way. So we can see this even, let's say, enthusiasm from cities to grasp this as an opportunity to bring and valorize different resources that they have available to serve better their needs. Also, what we have seen is that this vision, the city vision of where I want to be, do I want to be greener, more resilient, smarter, more better for my citizens, is better, how to say, implemented if it is owned also by the ecosystem. So it is not only a vision that is being said by the mayor, this is not enough, but if also the makers and the small and medium enterprises and the startup community and the schools and the citizens, they have a say on what they imagine, and this we see a lot of citizens engagement dialogues as well taking place in cities in order to crowdsource ideas, for example, what the city would be, and then create statistics and maintain the best ideas. Then the vision is something that is owned by the whole ecosystem, by the citizens as well. And then people have the, have the strong will, have the enthusiasm to work for a better city where not only them can live and enjoy, but also their kids and their children and their grandchildren can live. And we have seen this pride, let's say, by some cities that they say, I just don't want my kids, because they are better educated, to go to another city where they will have better opportunities. I want to create the opportunities here so that my kids and my grandkids can stay here. So we have seen a lot of this reflection in the cities that we were not seeing before, let's say. Indeed, that's this is the power. To my opinion, this, and where we help cities with the intelligence challenges to do that in an organized way. So it's good to talk about that. But if you ask cities, especially medium-sized cities, what is your industrial fabric? Have you done a mapping of what skills you need. It's easy to speak about, yeah, in general, I'm missing digital skills. But if you are not doing that in a very systematic, I would say scientific way, like I have this type of industries, be it agriculture or tourism or heavy industry, I don't mind. So these industries need to grow, but I also have startup communities that also need to grow, and they will offer good quality jobs. For this type of enterprises to get high level skills, I need to make sure that together with my academia, together with vocational training, that the young generation, but also reskilling of the workforce that is currently becoming obsolete, will be trained into that direction to fill these needs. So unless this is done on a meticulous planning and mapping of the, if I can say, the industrial fabric of the city and the skills need, it risks to fall apart if we stay at a very high general level, like we need more digital skills, for example, and we need smarter people. So this is what we're trying to do in the ICC with the one-to-one teams in each one of these 100 cities. Our experts are sitting together with the cities in order to design this mapping, in order to design these needs, and then help cities develop actions that are very targeted and respond to their own needs, not simply imitating what Barcelona or Milan has done, because this may not fit to the needs of the others.
Thank you very much.
May I raise a question, Antonio?
Of course, Aurora.
Dana, I love this, and this is the way to get not cities, but the entire countries and continents to the future. One question is, I don't see the future without inspiring on the past good things. And my question is, how do you figure in this program the incorporation of traditions, of old knowledge and old style people that give solutions? This came to my mind because I was thinking of the ladies that used sewing machines to produce a lot of masks. How that type of community became so active and so visible, although they were not part of any makers groups or this is only an example, but tradition has so many good artifacts and things that can inspire. I'm part of this 3D community, and I was thinking about a solution to do some things that then I saw in the internet that were very, very fast and well resolved by those people that never had the technological skill.
Yeah. This is a very good question. Thank you. I do not have an answer directly to your question. In general, the social partners and the social actors dimension, they are a very important part of every city ecosystem. But indeed, as you said, they can only be part of an ecosystem if they are somehow organized into something, like a social organization that produces masks, for example, or that takes care of the elderly people. So then they are representative and they have their weight in the ecosystem. We have seen indeed a lot of grassroots initiatives like the ones that you mentioned. Also, we have seen from the experience of the discussions we have with cities, a lot of neighborhood, so community or neighborhood initiative to help your neighbor, to do the grocery shop for your elderly neighbor, for example, etc. And this is encouraged to, there are initiatives, always technological, of course, that help this type of initiatives. So there are initiatives that are helping volunteers in a city or in a community or simply the neighborhood in a block to declare, for example, that they have free time to help, whatever help, and there are others that have to declare what help they need. There is a platform that we presented in one of the webinars that is called Give One Day, for example, that started very small, but it became very big within the crisis because it is a very easy platform. Many cities do not have platforms for this type of organizing volunteers. So this startup is now working with 300 cities, just to give them the opportunity to create a platform where volunteers can declare when they are free, one day or a few hours, but also then the other, the needs of the city can be put together in order to do this matchmaking. All I want to say is that indeed, for the time, the situation is quite chaotic in terms of all the offer of services that are being there, that are organically, let's say, grassroots offers, but also in terms of the needs that exist there. And technology helps to put some order into this chaos. I believe also that in the middle of the crisis, much more people, and also including local administrations, have learned to use these platforms, to search for information on this platform, to search for needs. A very good example I would advise you to have a look was the one that was presented by Amsterdam, that happened indeed as a solution to this chaotic situation. So they created the We Amsterdam platform, and it is very much maintained by all people who declare, who have small and big initiatives to help each other, to help the neighborhood, to create masks, as you say, not by enterprises, but by citizens practically, and help the whole community. So indeed, many cities are trying to create some order into this chaotic situation. Another very good example that was presented in the social economy webinars was an example by a cluster actually in Ljubljana, in Slovenia, that is trying to put together not only the city level, but also rural farmers, for example, local farmers that can produce food in order to make sure that they establish, for example, local food supply chains. Those are some examples that are, there is a lot of creativity that we see out there, and in times of crisis, it becomes even more intensive to come with good solutions.
Thank you very much. We have 5 minutes left. Okay, I want to encourage you to continue the dialogue on the ECCP forum. Okay, you have it in the screen. Okay, we will share the video of this session. Okay, I am sure that we will have a lot of question opens. Okay, so before ending, just remember to continue there. Okay, but anyway, last question.
Antonio.
Last question. Okay.
Antonio, hi.
Yes.
Good morning to you all. Thank you very much, Dana, for your fantastic presentation and attention on this so important matter. I would like to address your question concerning what it is being done, because this is a huge discussion we are having today, how to do a safe mobility solution, because in these days we need to get back to work. In using public transportations, it is a nightmare due to the self-concept that public transport, in this case I'm speaking about trains, metro or trams, it is supposed to be a mass market solution, and with these COVID times, it is something that we need to address to do it safely. Do you know any projects, or is that being on the table, under discussion? Because this is really, really relevant. Thank you.
Yeah, I know a lot is happening at the national level and at cities level on how to take measures indeed to make sure that public transportation becomes operational and safe. I am not aware of any European guidelines in terms of mobility, but I can discuss with my team afterwards and see whether there is a European initiative or guidelines about that. I'm not aware for the time being of European guidelines in this. Of course, we are preparing the next recovery, the roadmap, the recovery plan, and many things may come together, like the borders, how we deal with border control or travel restrictions. But if I find something after our webinar, I'll make sure that I will send it to the group.
Thank you. By the way, I can share that some of the solutions that we are discussing are passing by, for instance, changing public services open time in order to avoid the crash times. So it means putting the rush hours in a more long way, in a way that it does not concentrate people on everybody entering at the same time, for instance, and connecting mobility solutions, trains, metros, and bicycles, in order to avoid that people get back to their private cars, coming back to all the concepts that we are trying to avoid. Thank you.
Yes, indeed, and this goes in line with many cities that are opening pedestrian roads, for example, or for bikes at the center of the city, indeed, to avoid that everybody gets his own car again and we go back to minus, actually. I know this is a preoccupation, but we'll check whether there are European guidelines on this one, but happy to see.
I have a question of my own, okay? I have been working on IoT for 4 or 5 years very intensively, okay, on the industrial side. And the biggest problem that we have on that side was the standardization of the architecture.
Yeah.
How to exchange data between companies, okay? And I look for solution on the smart city areas. I was very surprised doesn't find anything. I was not able to find any standard on that point, and I think that's critical, really critical, if we want to connect between cities, but also between cities and companies, or between cities and citizens. In my mind, we should have some kind of European standard on that. Is there anything new, or some issue without any answer for now?
Yeah. No, this is a very important point that we are discussing a lot, not only within the Intelligent Cities Challenge, but we have an inter-service group within the Commission that we exchange views on all city-urban related initiatives. So, as you said, Antonio, Internet of Things, sensorizing the cities, getting data from the cities is very hot, is very important part of this discussion. And the discussion goes also on standards. The issue is more that there are many different standards. So not the lack of standards, but the plethora of standards, and that each one is implemented in their own way. We are working we have a technical group with different experts to decide, or at least to produce guidelines for cities that are using Internet of Things solutions, but also that they are opening the urban data, to open them following the same standards, so that if you want to to use the same applications, from citizens dialogue to smart waste management, for example, that you can use data in a homogeneous way. There is this organization which is called Open and Agile Smart Cities. OASCA is a non-for-profit organization also working with cities, who has developed, let's say, the minimum common denominator of standards. It's something that is called MIMS, which is minimum interoperability mechanism, with very simple, let's say, standards that cities should follow in order to, for example, open their data or indeed translate the data from Internet of Things to databases. So we are thinking now, they are part of the consortium, and we are thinking in using this MIMS mechanism, but also we are scanning the environment on what else is there, because we want something that is simple, homogeneous, and is used by every city. I would be happy to send you more information and documents on this one if you are interested.
Please, you could share it in the ECCP forum if you want, okay? But just to clarify, when I was speaking about the standard, for sure there are a lot of standards at low level. As much as you are near the device, is easier to find a standard, okay? But I was speaking about the very high level standardization of one common ontology, one common classification on concepts, and something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I believe they cover all of this. They cover the various layers, as you mentioned.
Perfect.
I will share with you a document on this one. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sorry to interrupt. We have the Fireware platform. It was, you know, Fireware platform. Yes. That is, it has a big community. It starts with a European project. Now it is a foundation, and it very mature and very used. So it is a very good platform.
Regarding it's closed. It's a closed platform.
No, I don't think so.
Can I add something about that? Is speaking. In fact, what OWASP cities is trying to do is to create a kind of, as Dana mentioned, a way of avoiding a city be stuck with a decision on a platform. So they try to create, let's say in a simple way, APIs that allow the communication between the different platforms that a city has, so they can evolve without being stuck with the same provider and so on. So that's, I think, the main advantage of the work that they are doing, and I think that also ETSI is working on that.
Yes, indeed. To clarify, OWASP and Fireware, they are not standards making organizations. They are indeed based and relying on work that has been done by ETSI and European standardization organizations, but they try indeed to work also on this ontology level and semantics level, and make sure that that cities mean the same things by using the same standards, and indeed create a minimum, a simple standard for them to use. Indeed.
Okay. It's a very, very interesting field. We can speak. We should make some specific session about this. At least for me, it's a very open field. But we need to close. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much, Dana, for all your intensive participation and wonderful ideas. And we will spread the knowledge of this opportunity to I understand, to our networks, and encourage our cities as much as we can. And again, please use the ECCP forum as the place to exchange information and to continue with the dialogue. That's this is the tool. This is the tool that we have, and I want to highlight it. Okay, and we continue. Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Have a nice day.
Same to you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.